the FBI and the jurisdiction of the local law enforcement. How is that coming about now?
Well, they work hand in glove, really. I mean, the agencies practice and work together. They work together every day on crime. And you're going to see FBI agents down there, and you'll see ATF agents down there. They work with detectives constantly every day, so it's nothing new to work together. We saw the chief talk about the attack, and then you saw the assistant special agent in charge of the New Orleans FBI division. Now, that's a ranking person. Sometimes we're fooled by the title of assistant, but it's like the XO, executive officer in a military organization. It's the number 2 in charge, or the assistant chief. It's a high-ranking command position. And she spoke and talked about, the IED and the officers who were shot. So all of these agencies get together, and primarily what FBI and the ATF will do is they work as investigators first. This is also most misunderstood by the public. They work first as investigators, like to so shoulder to shoulder with New Orleans detectives. They'll interview witnesses, they'll gather evidence, they'll, go afar, they get search warrants. So they first act as detectives. And, of course, then they layer on whatever specific expertise they have for bombs or guns or whatever they need, even family and peer support they can add in, whatever resources the agencies have. So I think you're going to have a very rapidly developed investigation this morning. I think there'll be some great facts enumerated at the next presser, because I think they have a lot of them. I mean, like Ken was saying, I don't think there's any mystery who this guy is. They know who he is. They've got him. He's either in custody or deceased. If he had escaped, I think they would have let us know right away. Yeah. So I think we're going to get a lot of facts from that presser, and they'll probably have some indication of the motive here. Yeah. But a pickup truck at a high rate of speed into a crowd on a sidewalk, you can see the devastation there. And,
absolutely.
It's just horrible.
Jim, I want to ask you also, in gathering this evidence, given that there are hundreds, if not thousands of people around this area, how do they gather evidence if somebody, say, has cell phone video of the scene or a photo or eyewitness accounts, given the fact there were so many people and also that they had so many of these people dispersed immediately after the incident?
Well, that's a great question, Francis, and it goes back to what we were just discussing. See, this is where all these detectives and special agents come in, because the police commanders need to get on there and start publicly asking for that from citizens who were there. And they have to have, people who talk to the citizens when they call in and field all that and go out and get the video or at least have it sent to them so they can look at it. The majority of the evidence in this case is going to be right in the pickup truck and right adjacent to it. If he jumped out and fired his weapon, as Ken alluded to, depending on the type of gun he's using, there may be some shell casings on the ground. And they'll probably recovered the gun as well. That'll be traced by ATF. They'll look at, processing the inside of the vehicle. He likely has his wallet in his pocket, so there's his ID. It doesn't always get into, if it's his vehicle, it can be registered to him. So he's probably not, an international man of mystery. They may be able to find out who he is pretty quickly and discern his motives. And then, back to the standard investigative process of, go to his house and get a warrant and search his laptops and cell phones and find out what he's all about. Or were there any Confederates involved? The planning here is, I wouldn't call it extremely sophisticated, but there is some planning. I mean, you have a three-pronged attack. You have a vehicle, a firearms against the police, and then a homemade bomb. So, there's a lot of thought and process into that. If there's just one person involved, you have to make the bomb, you have to get the gun, you have to plan your attack, you have to get worked up to do it, and then you're striking at this hour at 3 a.m. So, it goes to more than, say, a drunk careening into a crowd at 3:15, which could happen as well. Yeah. But this looks like much more than that.
And you bring up a point when it comes to just this one suspect. How is it that, how do investigators go about and seeing if there was anybody else involved or if this suspect of the driver had an accomplice or was working with somebody else?
Well, exactly, Francis. And here's the other thing, is there somebody dead at his residence or his family's residence? Did he kill a loved one, spouse, parents, neighbors? And all these things have occurred. Did he leave his house wired with explosives? Did he leave messages for what, the reason he did this there? There's a whole lot to be uncovered there. And if he has one bomb, then you have to sweep his house and vehicles to make sure they're not booby-trapped. You recall back when the killer was in the theater in Aurora, Colorado. He came into the theater with a automatic rifle with a large drum magazine, but he had wired his apartment, extensively with explosives and tripwires, knowing full well that, he might have been killed in his attack, but that the police would go back to his apartment and or blow up, or he would kill other neighbors there. So once they have bombs, then you have to, treat everything they touch and everywhere they've been like there could be more bombs. So they'll be doing that today as well.
Yeah, along with the many questions that still need to be answered as to that it was intentional, what was the motive. Jim, hang with me for a little bit as we turn to Emily Ikeda, who is in Times Square, who's covering the security measures and the precautions taken there during last night's revelry. What are you hearing about the situation in New Orleans?
Hey there, Francis. Good to be with you. Well, the police chief in New Orleans calling the situation very tragic that resulted in 10 people killed, about 30 others injured and transported to nearby hospitals. The chief also describing it in a news conference a short time ago as very intentional. She says that a man in a pickup truck purposefully moved around barriers on Bourbon Street, that popular tourist hotspot in that area, and drove as fast as possible down the street to run over as many people as possible. That, of course, again, according to police. Once the driver crashed the truck, police say that he began firing at police officers in the area, striking 2 officers who we've learned are in stable condition at the hospital, according to police. Again, that area, by the way, she points out, had several hundred officers devoted to it. We're talking about the heart of the French Quarter, Bourbon Street and Canal Street. Also, tens of thousands of people flocking to the area, not just for New Year's Eve celebrations, but also for the Sugar Bowl set to play out in the city later today. The police, though, noting that she believes at this time most of the people that had been impacted from the driver plowing into the crowds had been locals. The FBI is now taking over the investigation, and a special agent revealing in the news conference that several improvised explosive devices had been recovered. Our affiliate capturing images of robotics teams being deployed in the area. The governor tweeting, posting on social media a short time ago, a horrific act of violence took place on Bourbon Street earlier this morning around 3:15 a.m., according to police, adding, "I urge all near the scene to avoid the area." Francis?
Yeah, certainly tough as we are going through their official words that came out of the press conference and telling us that they're not going to have another briefing. They weren't taking questions. They're not going to have another briefing until a few hours from now, and urging the public to stay clear from Bourbon Street. 8-block surround is very active. They said it's a unified command in place right now. Jim, I want to bring you back in because we're hearing about what may be happening, what's likely happening when it comes to the investigation and finding out more about this suspect. Very little consolation to those family members who have been notified that their loved ones have been injured or have died from this incident. What happens now with family members who are wanting to find out more? A staging area, a triage area? How are law enforcement and city officials dealing with that? And those family members of loved ones who are wanting anything, any information, or wanting their questions answered?
Right. Well, the standard procedure, Francis, is to set up a family center. The police set up a family center. Usually it's in a nearby church or school. It could even be at a police facility nearby. Not near the crime scene where everything is shut off, but, somewhere where families can easily go and get access and speak to police officials and get direct information. Of course, you also have a lot unfolding at multiple hospitals, and family members will be going to hospitals if they have injured there, if they were notified. So the police have got to put out quickly, where their family reunification center is. So people who have injured or deceased can go there and find out some information. They did not put that out early today, but I'm sure they're just getting it set up. It does take a little time to set up. But at the next press conference, we should hear for sure where that family unification center is and how family members can, get to it and call and get information. So that's got to happen quickly, and it will, I'm sure, by their next presser. But it's going to be a very busy day, and with the Super Bowl laid on top of that, the Sugar Bowl, they've got a lot to do, and they've got a lot of officers committed to that. Mm-hmm. So,
how about the resources, since you bring that up, Jim? I want to ask you about the resources, because they did say this one with the Sugar Bowl happening tonight, all these officers were already there, many already assigned to be deployed. How does that change after this incident for them to secure the area even more, and especially with the FBI now involved and federal authorities all involved?
Yeah, it's just going to take more officers, more deputies from Jefferson Parish. It's going to take more Louisiana State troopers probably, because the ones that are assigned to the Sugar Bowl, they really can't be pulled off from that security. In fact, like you say, it might even want to be beefed up a little bit. So they've got a real drain now. They've got all this going on, a lot of investigative resources. The federal agents can help them with, a lot of that investigative stuff, FBI and ATFs. But Louisiana State Police and Jefferson Parish Sheriff's deputies, they can come in and help with all the uniform services to beef up, the crime scene, holding that. You're going to be holding that for a while, keeping the public away from Bourbon Street, shutting down Bourbon Street. That's a large thing to do in America, shut down Bourbon Street. That doesn't happen very often. And then to deal with the crowds from the Notre Dame-Georgia game. So very busy day in New Orleans.
Yes.
But they'll be able to handle it.
Jim, I apologize for interrupting. Just want to pass on some new information that we got from a federal law enforcement official who tells NBC News that the suspect is dead. Tell us how, again, that might change how we're going about in the investigation, how they're going about knowing that there's not a continuing threat to the public.
Well, that's a matter of just, searching his car or the truck, the F-150, and then going to his residence with a search warrant and going through that carefully, making sure there's no other explosive devices in there, interviewing his relatives, checking on their safety to make sure someone wasn't killed earlier before the attack. And, that's just a matter of gathering the forces and getting the warrant and going to do it. Normally we would just send agents to the house and just, basically park all out front, surround the house, call the occupants out, and wait for the warrant to be signed, and then go in carefully with the bomb squad and, go through it methodically, step by step. So that's what they're going to have to do.